what can people expect when they go into this film? It's you're tackling so many different genres within the film. And in the last interview, we were saying it's very difficult to nail it down, and obviously that's quite deliberate. What do you think people and hope people will kind of experience and take away when they see this film?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think people look at the poster and they look at the trailer and they think they're going in to see a straight horror film. And it certainly isn't that, you know, like it's not really scary, you know. I mean, there's some supernatural moments and it's eerie and creepy, but it's not out to scare the pants off you like The Conjuring, you know. It is about growing up, and it is about friendship and the friends that you have and the people you lose along the way to whatever circumstance. And so I think they can expect to reflect on their own experience, their own growing up, their own friends, and hopefully in a beautiful way. I think we've created quite a beautiful world up on screen, a bit of a surreal, trippy one, and but that's half of it. I wanted it to be a bit of a strange journey, not one that you're used to taking. It's not your usual film where you know that New York's going to blow up, but someone will be there to save it at the end, you know, and everything will be okay. It's a bit more unconventional.
The location of the film is quite ambiguous, which I assume is deliberate, but it is filmed in Adelaide. And what was your experience like filming in South Australia?
It was great. It was really interesting because a lot of people think that we were deliberately trying to conceal Adelaide, but we actually weren't, you know, because the story in many ways, while I wrote it about Melbourne, it made more sense in Adelaide because there is a bit of a mass exodus that people make when they turn 18 and leave Adelaide to go to bigger cities. And it's funny because we've also got big wide shots of the skyline as well, but I guess because Adelaide is a very flexible and it's different things to different people. It's not as identifiable as, say, you know, the Harbour Bridge or, you know, or Melbourne skyline. So it's ended up looking quite mysterious, and it could be any city in Australia. And I like that too. I like that it's just Australian suburbia. It could be Perth, it could be Sydney or Brisbane. But our experience in Adelaide was great. I think the Adelaide South Australian Film Corporation are really being visionary at the moment. They're really supporting the new wave of filmmakers. You know, we were filming with the crews who worked on films like Girl Asleep and The Babadook and The Rover, and all these great new filmmakers who are coming through creating the next wave of Australian films. And so to be supported like that when you don't have a track record, you know, I haven't made all these great films like some of the filmmakers working in Australia today, you know, it really means a lot.
There's also a big North American influence in the film as well. Was that always conceived as part of the idea? And you've kind of got the spirits in that sort of New Orleans vibe, and you've got Halloween, which of course isn't a huge thing in Australia. How much of that North American influence is deliberate and how much of it is just natural?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting. I think we grew up watching a lot of American content in Australia, and I think Australia is such a magpie culture because we're such a new country. We really draw upon the influences of the outside world. We have great coffee because so many Italian migrants came in at World War II, you know, and we've got great Vietnamese food because of that wave that came through as well. So, and I think we learnt a lot from American culture. American cinema has really permeated our consciousness, and so it did certainly influence things. But with Halloween, we do see Halloween now as a very American holiday, but to me I was much more interested in going back to the real roots of it, the real Celtic idea of the passing of time and celebrating and honouring the dead. And it's why we pay homage to Dia de los Muertos as well, and I was inspired by Ray Bradbury's The Halloween Tree in that respect. And then with The Man in White, you know, who, you know, he was a really important figure to me because this is where the idea of this being an Australian film really became crucial, because if there's an ancient spirit out there, chances are he's been there a lot longer than a bunch of white boys in suburbia. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so if we were going to work with a spirit who had been here for a very long time, it made sense that he be one of our original custodians. And I was influenced by photography of the 1890s, by the very forgotten but very interesting photography of Fred Kruger and Lint, who captured our Indigenous people in a way that wasn't exactly desirable at the time, but I worked with Koori Victoria about reclaiming that image so that it wasn't as racist as it once was and became one of empowerment.
White Boys in Suburbia is another great title for the film.
Exactly.
And finally, there's a great quote early in the film about photography. Never, oh, that's not a career. What are you doing with your life? As the father in the film tells his son. Are you relating that to a personal experience?
No, actually, my parents were actually quite supportive of me, but I think some people are very dismissive of the arts and how can you monetize it? How can you actually make a career out of it? And I think especially now, I mean, to be a photographer in the 90s was a very different commitment to what it is now. It feels like everyone with a selfie stick or a Canon 5D classifies themselves as a photographer. Whereas some people, it's, they hone their skills and they work incredibly hard for years and give a lot to it. So I think those people, it's certainly not a hobby for, it's a way of life.
As it seems to be for you. Well, congratulations on the film, and hope everyone sees it when it comes out this month.
Cool, thank you very much.
'Tis the night of the grave's delight, and the warlocks are at their play. Ye think that without the wild wind shout, but no, it is they.
Guess sometimes you don't realise who you've left behind